Geeks at the Nerd Table, Season 2, Episode 3 of Rings of Power Review. Let's go and jump right into this. We got a episode that is kind of a shift from everything else this season so far. Kind of a little bit of a refresher, and also going back and talking about characters that you may have forgotten about from the first season. And I think I even didn't include them wholly together in my complete review. The humans, the Southlanders, the people from Numenor, the Numenorians. So, if you haven't seen Season 2, Episode 3, pause here, go watch it, then come back and join the conversation. Pull that seat up to the table and join in on the conversation. Let's look at the dwarves. We know the situation for them. It's looking dark. It's looking grim. At the end of the last episode, they got a letter from Calibrinmor and his partner, who we all know is Sauron, just with a new face, a new look, and a new story to who he is. They sent that letter out to him, to Doran. Doran answers the call and shows up there. And there's a interesting interaction there where Calibrin is actually very tactful. Calibrinmor's partner is getting more angry. Sauron's getting more angry as Doran keeps on resisting him and not actually giving in right away. One, by actually presenting this to the king, he's going to have to swallow his pride and go talk to his father, who has exiled him, and he's essentially have to live a hard life now and mine like the rest of the dwarves do. So he doesn't want to swallow his pride, being a very prideful person, being a very prideful dwarf, should we say. We know that they're strong-headed and prideful, and they don't want to admit that they're wrong, or at least that they're right, but they're wrong for the way that they went about doing everything that they did in the last season. Now, Calibrinmor needs to get Doran to agree, and he's tactful. He knows that they're prideful. He knows that they're stubborn. He knows that it's done very slowly there. Water will cut stone, drip by drip. So he tactfully tells him, take your time, think about it, come back to us. And then that is actually what sets everything in motion. Jumping to the end of the episode, we see that Doran actually goes talk to his father, and then it kind of cuts from there back to the human story, but we kind of don't know whether talking to his father and saying he's sorry actually is made the difference. But at the end of the episode, we do see the dwarves going to the forge and handing over a shard of the special material that they need to make the rings. And we see them dropping it into the cauldron and being melted down. More importantly, we see it being handed to Calibrinmor, and as he is about to go and drop it in, Sauron swoops in and takes it from him and drops it in himself. It looks almost like he does a sleight of hand thing where he like palms it and then puts it into his other hand and then drops it in. But this time we can actually see that Sauron has touched the materials and is putting it into the fires himself. He's going to have a little bit more control over these rings, I'm assuming, than the other rings. So that's it for the dwarves. We go back to the humans. And when we talk about the humans, we have a whole cast of characters that we completely forgot about. Let's start off with Elendil, the commander of the armies. He's the one that actually headed up the armies that were heading to Middle-earth to try to help out and save against this dark power that's rising. The orcs that are growing and fighting in the Southlands. They went to go and save the Southlands, which they ended up being a little too late, and the volcano went off, and they were in the middle and thick of all of it. Him and the Queen Regent decide that they need to go back to Numenor and consolidate their losses. The king is dead, so the queen is, his daughter is now going to ascend to the throne, and this is the episode that we have in Numenor. It is the Ascension. You have a little bit of backstabbing, planning going on by Pharazôn. That is the queen's uncle and in line for the throne, or at least has a good claim to the throne. And he's doing a little, backstabbing play going on. He's talking to the Queen Regent and supporting what she's saying, what she's doing, kind of heavy-handed, like leading her along. Then behind her back, talking about treacherous things and getting rid of her, and how do you take the throne, and how do you gain forces and have an army and make the few strong. We jump back to the Southlands, where you actually end up finding Isildur still alive in the dark woods. His horse comes and finds him, wakes him up in the spider's den, and then gets him out of there. He ends up traveling back and runs into another elf that I forgot about and thought that he wasn't going to be important. Arondir, the ranger knight, the ranger elf, that was out in the Southlands and charge of protecting the Southlands and doing a lot of acrobatics and fighting. We see him back there and meeting up with Isildur, and we get kind of this story of how he's surviving, running into some new characters, maybe a love interest, maybe not, maybe she's a spy. We'll see yet what has to come, because we definitely see around the campfire that she's burning off the markings, the stamp that she got that is of Ardor, the one that's the father of the orcs, that's leading the orcs and claiming that he is the lord of Mordor now. You flash back to Numenor at the end, where you get the coronation, and At the coronation, you have a little bit of sabotage, bringing up that the Queen Regent has been using a seeing stone so that she can see what's going on, and that's where she gets her wisdom from. And a eagle comes in at that moment, and we've seen the eagles before. We know that there's a big historical storyline for the eagles in Tolkien's world, but the biggest moment is that they come and save Frodo at the end. They bring Frodo and Sam home. And there's always the question of whether Gandalf told them to fly, meaning to take the eagles to Mordor and get it done with and over with. But who knows? That would have been terrible for the story. It's awesome to see these majestic eagles to be actually brought into this show, even if it's just for like a cameo moment that then turns the tide and has Farazan actually ascend to the throne when everyone's questioning the Queen Regent and get a quasi blessing. We'll see what this has to offer. He's essentially, it looks like, becoming the new king. And we'll see where things have to go and what's going to happen because of it. It was a very intense episode that seems to be off the main storyline, but dealing with all the events that have been going on. It's dealing with the humans and Mordor and the Southlands, and really tied to everything that's going on there. Nothing from the elves and nothing from the stranger. We'll see if they come back up in the next episode or if they come back up later in the series. We're at episode 3, so we're almost halfway. Episode 4 is going to drop this week. At the time that I'm recording, it's already dropped, so go ahead, watch it. I'll watch it too. Put a comment down in the chat and talk about what you were liking, what you're not liking. What do you think is interesting? Where do you think everything is going? And pull that seat up to the table and join the conversation.